Welcome to the Strategic Management Accounting course, where we teach the value-adding steps and processes necessary to execute strategy. Whether you are just starting up or looking to grow your business, then this course is for you. With your host, Dr. Neil O'Connor.
We can move over to the PowerPoints into week 5. Hey, welcome back. Guess what? This is chapter 5, and this follows on from week 4 and chapter 4, because we're looking at cost of controls. A bit of overlap, but actually a bit of reinforcement of some of those issues that we talked about last week. So pay attention as I take you through the key areas. There is the benefit of controls, the higher probability. Let's just read this out, shall we? Let's understand. A higher probability that people will both work hard and direct their energies to serve the organisation's interests. Wow, wouldn't that be great to have people thinking like that in your organisation? Absolutely. Is it possible we can get that? Yes, but at a cost. There is a cost, and that is the cost of controls. That is the direct out-of-pocket costs. The cost of putting a system in place. That's the cost of putting in the IVLE, the systems costs. And also out-of-pocket costs are the training that's needed, the training the users to use the system. It's easier quantified. It's the cost of cash bonuses, internal audit staff, but also the information systems. Difficult to quantify, the time spent on planning and budgeting activities, pre-action reviews. These are all extra out-of-pocket costs. So I've mentioned the information systems costs, there's the audit costs, there's the compensation costs, but also there's this other pre-action control type costs, planning and budgeting, pre-action reviews. These are all costs. They all cost money. Organisations spend a lot of time planning, a lot of time in controlling. That's all costs that doesn't get anything done, but it's all about preventing from the wrong things getting done and making sure the right things get done in the organisation. That is, the right people are served in the right way, or the right products are manufactured in the right way, in the right sequence. But there are harmful side effects that we're trying to avoid. We've got these costs, but these harmful side effects, if we can avoid these are kind of benefits of the controls. We want to try and get the costs and benefits so we have a net improvement. If we don't have a net improvement, well, hang on, let's just go back before chapter 5 and not even read it, shall we? Okay, harmful side effects. Behavioural displacement, well, that's when all the behaviours of your employees are not focused on the one goal, and they're continually doing other things that really don't contribute to the overall value of the organisation. Gamesmanship. Gamesmanship is that when we're following the SOP, we're actually doing exactly what the SOP says, but we're doing it in a shortcut way. Maybe we're skipping a few steps. Why? Because no one's watching and no one notices the difference, and the same result is coming out. So operating delays, that can occur. That's a harmful side effect, and that's because there's less coordination between the people. And negative attitudes. Negative attitudes is very, very prominent in a lot of organisations, where you get people that really don't feel like they're on the same page, and they may not fit in. They may be looking for another job. They may not fit into the control, but in the meantime they are stuck there, and they can be like a curse or kind of a virus on the whole organisation. These negative attitudes are not good for the controls over time. They're not good as a benefit. You want to minimise these negative attitudes. Sometimes deselection can affect that. Selection is about trying to overcome that. Remember the video that I showed you last week? One of the employees' key terminologies of American Management Services is, every day I need to bring my A game. And that is a really good attitude to have, and it's opposite to this negative attitude. So it's all about the benefits of controls is to try and stop these side effects, and that's a benefit too. But these are the costs. These are the side effects. You can have controls in place, but you can have these too, and they can eat away. They can eat away at the effectiveness of controls. I know there was one auto manufacturer in Melbourne in Australia where they were making mufflers on one side and then they were transferred to the other side of the road, and then they were put into a different module of the car. And because the one group of people making the mufflers were different from the other group and they hated the other group, they actually wrote on the side of the muffler, get, you know what I mean, get F blah blah blah. Yes, they actually wrote that on the muffler, and that came across to the other group. And of course, do you think they loved each other? Of course not. But these are things that happen in organisations. These are real things that happen in organisations. And you could probably put it under negative attitudes, or just offensive attitudes, or just attitudes where people don't like other groups in the same organisation. Yes, it happens. It's real. And so these, and you could put that under behavioural displacement too, because obviously they're not working together as a full knit team. There's no teamwork. So basically the consultants went into this organisation once they saw this muffler with this get F blah 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 on it, and they realised that, this is really, it's really good to see this, because now we know that there's a problem. Now we know what one group thinks of the other group in the organisation. That's a good starting point for a consulting project, because finding out what the real problem is can take a long time sometimes. So, and then they went to these teams and got them thinking about who is their customer. And their customer, the customer of the muffler team, was not the people that bought the car. The customer of the muffler team was the next team that they sent the muffler to. And it was about changing their orientation, changing their mindset, and working with them to change their attitudes for how they're working with the other team. They were it was a lot of animosity between the teams, but then the consultants turned that around where they were actually working together. And so that sign on that muffler, get blah blah blah, was a really positive thing to find out what the root of the problem was, and the consultants were able to solve that. So these are some of the examples of the harmful side effects that happen in the organisation. Look, there's a lot of issues. We can talk about behavioural displacement, gamesmanship, operating delays, negative attitudes, lots of examples here. But this is a real tricky one, gamesmanship, because sometimes you may not see it. You may not see it until it's too late, where people play games with the system, and it looks as though that the system is okay, it looks as though everyone is behaving okay, it looks as though the result's okay, until one day something goes wrong. And then you realise, for the last 12 months people have been taking shortcuts. And you don't know, because people are gaming the system. And it's very easy to play games around systems these days. So this is a very big issue. It's a big issue in the risk management area. It's a big issue since the global financial crisis, where banks are trying to work out their risk management issues that they have to deal with. And one of the big things they're currently dealing with is to try and bring in a risk management culture, like a dripping tap. Drip, 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 drip. We're not talking about leakage, but we're talking about this dripping tap of just having that risk attitude, that risk attitude, that risk attitude, that attitude that we need to be constantly aware of, and that's part of the culture in the organisation. Banks are bringing that in. They're trying to make that a stronger part of the culture. And it's all about thinking about gamesmanship happens when you focus a lot on the results control and on action controls, whereas a lot of the issues that banks are grappling with now is, what type of culture do we want to build into the organisation? Yes, we have all these standard operating procedures. Yes, we have all these results controls. We've had them for the last 2 decades. They're not much different. But what is different now is that we need a new culture. We need a new risk management culture, a new way of thinking about how people work inside the bank. And that's a people control. And this is how you can overcome gamesmanship, by getting the professionalism, developing the right culture in the organisation. So that's one thing I think is a big challenge for a lot of banks and companies around the world at the moment. I won't go into detail on the others. I think there's some good examples here. Operating delays, you can actually see that on the results. Negative attitudes, well, if you're going to work for my organisation, you better bring your A game. Yes, you know what I want. So that finishes chapter 5. Thank you very much.